Hello everyone, welcome back to another one of these What I've Been Playing Lately, just kind of giving you a brief discussion about the games that I've been playing over the course of the year. And if you've been watching these, you know that this year I challenged myself to go through the entire Yakuza franchise, and I have been doing that more than like anything else since I started, especially after that last Nintendo Direct. I've been watching a lot less TV, fewer movies, any of that kind of stuff to put more time into playing through the Yakuza series, because not only am I enjoying them, but that Nintendo Direct was huge and there are a lot of games coming out this year, more than I expected, that are right up my alley. Ones that are like must-buys for me. So I have less time than I thought. There are a few short games coming out, so I pretty much have till September to make my way through. Thankfully, I started the end of last year, like with Zero and going through. So continuing my discussion a little bit about Yakuza 3, and the last one I just talked about Yakuza 3. I finished Kiwami 1 and 2 and 0, and I was almost done 3 at that time. And I kind of have to reiterate a little bit of what I said about 3 to talk about 4, because at this point I've now finished 4, and over the weekend I started 5. I think Sunday, I forget if I started Saturday night or Sunday 5, but yeah, it's been an interesting road, and the thoughts that I had on 3 pretty much held throughout the whole thing, to where I enjoyed some of the elements I think a lot of people disliked, and I think I get why they disliked it though. The opening chapters, the slower pace, the more Shenmue-esque pacing and slice of life stuff, and the very different environment, dealing with all the school troubles and things with the kids at the orphanage. I really liked all that, but I get why some people wouldn't like that if they were very used to the over-the-top zaniness and wackiness and brutal violence, and you get a lot of that in the later chapters of 3, but it's never quite to the extreme in the sense of the over-the-top, fighting, or even the wacky sense of humor. 3 never quite goes in the main narrative to those levels as many other entries, so I kind of get why some people maybe are thrown off by it. But I really liked it. I liked that change of pace, and it was a very essential, now having played through that 4 and into 5, it was an essential chapter of the life of Kiryu, of the main protagonist of this series. It really added so much to the progression of him throughout the rest of the franchise. So I really enjoyed it, but it didn't quite catch me. The main overall, the underlying narrative with the political takeover, whether it's be the resort or the American weapons military zone and all these different things going on, it never quite captured me the same level of excitement as many of the other games. Even though I still thought it was great, I actually thought the other stuff was better, more the characterization and the narrative with those new characters, and that stuff worked better, I think, than the real main threat. So it was a little more of a mixed bag in that regard, and gameplay wise, even going back and replaying 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 2 a little bit, it's my least favorite gameplay wise. For some reason, it didn't feel as smooth as even the PlayStation 2 games or later entries. It had a little bit of a clunkiness feeling to it. Enemies would block like crazy to an annoying level, and even some things they added into, like the chase sequences that became a feature that would carry on into later games, they weren't designed as well as in starting with Yakuza 4. They just didn't. They went on too long. They felt a little clunky gameplay wise. There were some issues. So far as I'm going through the series, at the end of the year, whenever I finish all these, including the spin-offs, I'm going to talk about them as like a ranking and whatever. But so far, playing through them, 3 is probably my least favorite, even though there are things that I liked about it. And 4 kind of combines the best of both worlds for me. I know it's a one, again, like 3 and 4 seem to be the two that have the most varied opinions. 4, obviously, it's a huge step up gameplay-wise. Everything feels smooth. I like even the chase sequences in that are done much better. They feel more natural and fluid, and with the addition of real run around the rooftops and also going down the sewers and things, it really adds so much more to those elements of gameplay, and everything's vastly improved. And as far as the narrative, I was really happy, especially playing these in quick succession, to get the breakup of having 4 different protagonists, and because it takes place the vast majority of the narrative in the most familiar city for you, if you're playing through this series, like in home base, you get these different perspectives of a very familiar setting, from having four very different protagonists, very different backgrounds, and very different motivations, and even completely different play styles, which was really, really cool to learn. Getting those different perspectives of a very familiar environment, the place that feels like home by now, was cool and really broke up the traditional formula. It didn't feel like just another Yakuza game. It felt like there was something a little different, and it kind of took the opposite approach where 3 was very focused on its narrative and a very straight path, and this not only did it the 4 protagonists, but it was interesting and then also went crazy towards the end. I liked starting off with Akiyama because there was a sense of difference and a sense of humor and things that were very different than the style of the first 3 games. It was something, again, that gave you a little bit of a different perspective on a familiar city. And then moving into Sajima, I really liked his story and the ties to 3 in particular, and of course, Goro Mujima is an amazing character, and tying more into that story, having played Zero and everything, and getting into that, that's Amanda's favorite character by far. She calls him her boyfriend with the eye patch. So that was really cool, and again, really, I loved the narrative with him. And of course, you have Kiryu again into the mix, and then Tanimura was mixed. They all have very different gameplay styles, and it's cool. I liked that that focus. His was my least favorite as far as physically playing him, like in combat and things like that. His style just didn't quite click with me, but I liked what he added to the narrative. I liked the police corruption and his past and getting into that. I love the investigation type elements. I really liked that, which makes me think I'm probably going to like the Judgment games when I finally get to those. So I really enjoyed what they were doing with him and what he added to the narrative. The one thing that I think, depending on how you look at it, is either a big negative or a big plus with 4. For me, it was a big plus, but again, like with the differences in 3, I get why some people wouldn't like it. The narrative builds fantastically through all 4 of these main protagonists as you move along, and then when you get towards the very end, the last couple chapters, and definitely that last chapter with the big showdown, that, without spoiling much in these reviews, try not to talk too much to give away if you haven't played these. There's basically, it's very much teased from the beginning, even in the opening, that eventually these 4 characters meet up and there's a big, all 4 of them together showdown towards the end. And in those last few chapters, it went a little too far into the almost like soap opera, like all my children with violence. I'm the one who killed this guy. No, wait, I actually did. You killed nobody. Oh, he's dead. Oh, wait, 5 minutes later, he's not dead. He has a gun. Out of nowhere, there's a lot of the, everything's over, we had our moment, he's defeated. Oh, he has a gun. And then, kick the gun away. A couple seconds later, he has the gun again. Like, that type of thing, I could see where it got silly. But to me, I loved it. I loved the ridiculous, silly, over-the-top melodrama of it all, and the imagery of this big final fight on top of the Millennium Tower, which that kind of environment for the end fight happens a lot, so that's not really spoiling anything, but lots of crazy, insane, shirtless dudes beating the crap out of each other on top of a tower with a cityscape and money flying everywhere and all this insanity. It was just, to me, it was so over the top that I think it could rub some people the wrong way. But to me, that was such a fun flavor of this series, really, that I actually really liked that. The insanity, as much as I like the more toned down and more kind of realism of 3, I liked the insanity towards the end of 4 because, again, I think it might be a slightly different experience playing these in quick succession. I like the slight differences, things breaking it up, that kind of thing. And then going into 5, and at this point I'm still in the opening chapters of 5. It opens with Kiryu, and he's in a brand new city, which I am in love with. I think it's might be my favorite city so far. I just like the feel and the design of it. It just really fits my personal tastes in architecture and just the way it looks. I really enjoy that, and I'm enjoying the storyline so far. I think there are some really, really good continuations, for his storyline, his character growth already, just a few chapters in, and I am getting really into the life of this city, doing all kinds of the extra mini games, getting involved in people's storylines. I really am getting a very for me, because everyone's taste is going to be different in places they like to live and that kind of thing, for me, this kind of is feeling like an environment I could live in, and I'm really getting a homey feeling. I'm just really getting into it, and it is by far my favorite so far in terms of the mini games. I'm also a big fan of racing games, particularly arcade racing games. A lot of that come from Sega. Really, I've always enjoyed, whether it's like the arcade, playing Outrun or just anything, even the Sonic, racing games, anything like from Sega, in particular with racing games, I've always enjoyed. So I am addicted to all the taxi driver stuff. I am, whether it is the taxi missions, which are like Crazy Taxi, but playing it safe. Those are so much fun. And then the street races, I am super into all that. I'm probably going to do just all of that, 100% all of that, because I am loving it. I'm actually like, I might have to be careful. I don't want to move on because I know there are many different protagonists in different cities in 5. I don't want to move on from this chapter without finishing all of that. So I'm really focusing because I'm loving it. So far, I'm completely sold on 5. There's a lot more to go. It's like one of the longest, if not the longest, in the franchise. I know that going in, and there are many different protagonists in like 5 different cities. I think it's gonna be crazy because I'm already like 6-7 hours in, and I'm just at the beginning of chapter 3 of part 1, because I'm just doing like everything because I am loving it. Again, like I could do like all the taxi and racing things. I just think they're great, and they add so much, and they fit in the narrative. Fighting the Devil Kings, and because it's kind of like initial D vibe going on with some of that. I'm loving it so far. 5 is like right up my alley. So I'm wondering if the pace of 5 keeps up with how much I'm enjoying it right now. I wouldn't be shocked if it ended up being my favorite, just how much I'm enjoying it. So that is what I've been playing, and I'll come back eventually once I finish 5 and probably 6, and then move on to like a Dragon and the Judgment games and that kind of stuff. So that'll be really, really cool. But right now I've been having a blast playing through this franchise.